Why did Nepal's tea industry shake because of India's strict decision? It was morning time, a light mist was spread across the hills of Ilam, and laborers working in the tea gardens had arrived to pluck leaves like any other day. But on that day there was no sound of machines at the factory gate, only restlessness. On one side bags of ready tea were kept in warehouses, on the other side traders were avoiding picking up the phone. Farmers were asking, who will buy our leaves now? And factory owners had no clear answer. Then news arrived that India's new quality testing rules have given a shock to Nepal's tea industry. According to reports, 83 tea factories in Ilam and Jhapa have shut down operations. Now the question is not just why India tightened the testing of tea. The real question is how an SOP created fear, loss and diplomatic pressure across the entire tea belt of Nepal. Nepal's tea is not just a crop. It is an entire chain connected to the economy of hilly areas, the income of thousands of farmers, the livelihood of factory workers and the hopes of exporters. In Ilam, Jhapa and many areas of eastern Nepal, tea cultivation has been the identity of people for years. From the morning leaf to factory processing, the hard work of local families goes into every step. Both Orthodox tea and CTC tea are made in Nepal. Orthodox tea gets better recognition in the premium market, while CTC tea is mostly used for regular milk tea. According to reports, Nepal produces around 27,000 tons of tea every year. In this, about 8,000 tons of Orthodox tea and around 19,000 tons of CTC tea are stated. But the biggest weakness of Nepal is that its tea industry depends heavily on its biggest market, which means India. Especially a large portion of Orthodox tea goes to India. Due to being near the border of India, trade looks easy. A truck leaves, crosses the border, and the goods reach Indian buyers. But when a rule changes, this very dependence becomes a risk. In May 2026, the India Tea Board implemented a standard operating procedure, meaning an SOP for imported tea. Under this, quality testing of imported tea consignments was made more strict. The Indian side stated that this step is necessary for quality control. Tea imports had increased in India, and there was a concern that some imported tea could be used incorrectly in blending or re-export. The Indian tea industry, especially Darjeeling and small tea growers, had been complaining for a long time that cheaper imported tea is affecting the Indian market and the reputation of Indian origin tea. From here, the story began to change. Earlier, Nepali tea used to cross the border and reach the market relatively fast, but now the process of testing, sampling and approval started stopping the speed of trade. Under the SOP, importers had to submit shipment details on the Tea Council portal. Information like arrival date, warehouse location, container details and invoice had to be entered into the system. The testing fee was also stated to be around 11,120 Indian rupees plus GST per sample in reports. Meaning, along with delay, cost also started adding up in the calculation of the exporter and buyer. Tea board officials could collect samples, and uncertainty was created in selling or distributing the goods in the market until the lab report arrived. This very uncertainty became the biggest fear. Nepali producers say that it can sometimes take 14 days or more for the test result to arrive. In a commodity like tea, a delay is not just waiting, it is a loss of both quality and cash flow. If the sample passes, the goods will move forward. But if the sample fails, a situation like sending the consignment back or destroying it can be created. The buyer began to fear this very risk. In the beginning of May, exports almost stopped. Trucks were stuck at the border, goods in warehouses, and factories in wait for payment. Farmers started facing difficulty in selling green leaves. Then around the 20th of May, news came that India has given temporary relief from compulsory testing to imported tea coming for domestic sale. This gave some hope to Nepali exporters. But this relief did not last very long. In June, reports came that Indian authorities are collecting samples from buyers' warehouses, and there is a hindrance in sale before lab clearance. Meaning, Nepal's producers felt that the rule had softened, but on the ground, uncertainty came back again. Seeing the risk, Indian buyers started showing hesitation in buying Nepali tea. When a buyer steps back, the shock hits the factory first. The factory has ready tea stock, but there is no sale. Cash is not left to buy new green leaves. And when the factory stops buying leaves, the farmer is directly affected. Leaves are ready in the field, laborers are ready, but there is no buyer. This is the most painful point of the crisis. According to a report by the Kathmandu Post, all 83 tea factories of Ilam and Jhapa suspended operations in protest. This was more of a distress signal than a permanent closure. Factory owners reached Kathmandu so that they could demand immediate diplomatic intervention from the Nepal government. They said that repeated trade barriers have paralyzed the industry. Aditya Parajuli, the president of the Nepal Tea Producers Association, said that they have come to Kathmandu after closing factories and a meeting with ministry officials is scheduled. This frustration was not born suddenly. Their allegation was that memorandums were given earlier too, problems were told, but the issue remained unresolved. Meaning the tea sector felt that their voice did not reach the policy level seriously. According to reports, around 1,000 tons of Nepali tea was stuck in Nepal's warehouses, and about 300 tons of tea was stated to be stuck in India. This is not just stock, it is blocked money. If tea is stored for a very long time, its freshness, aroma and market value can be affected. In premium orthodox tea, timing and quality perception are very important. For an exporter, a delay does not just mean goods being sold late. They have to face many risks, like bank interest, storage cost, labor payment, packaging cost, and buyer cancellation. For the farmer, the crisis is even more basic. If the factory does not buy green leaves, the farmer will not be able to make income despite seeing the crop standing in the field. This is the harsh reality of agriculture trade. Nepal's tea industry was already under pressure. Problems like production decline, pest infestation, and rising costs are also mentioned in reports. Meaning, the new testing issue became a new burden on old pain. Some producers say that CTC production was also affected due to the lower availability of green leaves. The India dependency on orthodox tea exports made the crisis even more visible. Here it is necessary to understand that India's decision should not be seen suddenly as just an anti-Nepal step. India is also worrying about its domestic tea industry, consumer safety and export reputation. Tea import volumes in India remained quite high in previous years. According to reports, India imported around 45 million kilograms of tea in 2024, and this figure remained big in 2025 as well. The Indian industry was concerned that some imported tea could be blended with Indian tea and re-exported. If the quality or origin declaration is not clear, questions can be raised on the Indian tea brand. Darjeeling tea has its own global identity. If cheaper imported tea gets mixed with incorrect branding, both local growers and genuine producers can suffer a loss. That is why the Indian side describes quality testing not as an unfair barrier, but as a necessary safeguard. Their argument is that the consumer should get safe and genuine tea. But Nepal's problem is that if the testing system is slow, communication is unclear, and the report is delayed, then the same quality rule starts feeling like a trade barrier. In trade, sometimes non-tariff barriers are more dangerous than tariffs. No extra tax is levied, but the process becomes so slow that the exporter is practically out of the market. Nepali producers are raising this very point. They say that if the tea is bad, test it, but the system should be fast, predictable and transparent so that genuine exporters are not punished. The diplomatic angle is also important here. Open borders, cultural ties and trade connections are strong between Nepal and India, but small policy changes also make a big impact in sensitive sectors. The Nepal government was stated to have formed an interagency task force to look into the issue. In this, the involvement of agriculture, industry and other official bodies came forward. Nepal's demand could be that India mutually recognizes tea testing certificates or accepts reports from Nepal's approved labs so that every shipment does not stop at the border. Earlier, India had recognized the testing certificates of some of Nepal's food products, but the tea sector is still facing periodic restrictions and testing uncertainty. If both countries make a common mechanism on quality standards, consumer safety will also remain intact and trade will also not stop. The real solution is hidden in coordination, not confrontation. This crisis has given another lesson to Nepal. Any export industry should not depend too heavily on a single market, no matter how big and close that market may be. Nepal's exporters have been talking about markets like Iran, Russia, Pakistan, China, Europe, and the Middle East. But entry into new markets is not easy for individual exporters. Branding, certification, logistics, buyer networks, packaging and price positioning, all these demand government support and long-term planning. Just making quality tea is not enough. There is potential in Nepal's orthodox tea because things like a hilly climate and hand processing give it a premium story. But the premium market demands trust, consistency and certification. On the other hand, balance is necessary for India too. If rules are very strict, but the process is not efficient, resentment increases in the neighboring country and bilateral trade trust weakens. India wants to protect consumer safety and domestic growers. This is a legitimate concern. But if genuine Nepali tea gets stuck in delays, small farmers and laborers get hurt the most. In the world of a tea worker, geopolitics seems like a very distant thing. They only know that the factory is closed, leaves are not being sold, and household expenses are stopping. The trouble of the factory owner is different. They bought the leaf, did the processing, did the packaging, dealt with the buyer, but the entire working capital got stuck waiting for clearance. The Indian buyer is also in fear. If they bought the goods and later the sample failed, their money, stock and reputation, all three could be in danger. Meaning, there is no simple picture of one villain and one victim in this story. This is a combined story of quality control, trade dependence, slow processes, and weak diversification. The most urgent question before Nepal's tea industry is how the stuck stock will get out. If 1,000 tons of tea remains lying in warehouses, the entire financial planning of the season can get spoiled. The second question is of the farmers. If factories stop buying green leaves, farmers can move towards alternative crops. This can change the long-term structure of the tea belt. The third question is of diplomacy. Will Kathmandu and New Delhi be able to sit together and make a system where quality is also not compromised and border trade is also not choked? If lab testing is necessary, reports should come timely. If certificates are needed, the list of accepted labs should be clear. If re-export is a concern, traceability and labeling should be strong. For India too, this is an opportunity to become a quality leader in regional trade, but keep the process predictable. A rule is respected only when its execution looks fair. For Nepal, this is a wake-up call that depending only on India is risky. The more concentrated the export market is, the more painful the policy shock will be. For the farmer, this crisis shows that a crop grown in the field does not depend only on the weather. It can also depend on border rules, lab reports, and diplomacy. The closed gates of factories are not just telling the story of Nepal's tea. They are telling that in today's trade world, a quality certificate can also sometimes change destiny. Right now, the final outcome will depend on diplomacy and the clarity of the testing process. If a solution comes quickly, factories can run again, stock can move out, and farmers can get relief. But if the uncertainty goes on for long, the crisis of trust can deepen in Nepal's tea industry. Buyers will search for alternative suppliers, farmers will change crops, and factories will get stuck in a cash flow crisis. In the end, the question is not of tea, it is of the system. Is the trade trust between neighboring countries strong enough that both quality and livelihood can be saved together? Because when a cup of tea comes into our hand, there is not just taste in it. The mourning of the farmer, the wage of the laborer, the machine of the factory, and the impact of border policy are also dissolved in it. And today Nepal's tea industry is asking this very question. If the fragrance of tea cannot reach the market after coming out of the hills, then what will be the future of the hard work of these gardens?
If this video has taught you something new, or if you feel this information should reach more people, don't forget to like and share the video. Your small share can become valuable and useful information for someone else. If you have any questions related to this topic, or if you would like to share your opinion with us, be sure to write in the comment box. We read every question and suggestion from you, because your feedback inspires us to create better content. And if you want to keep receiving such interesting and reliable information about business, the economy, and the world in the future, then don't forget to subscribe to our channel GRT Business and also press the bell icon so that you get notifications of every new video directly. At GRT Business, we always strive to provide you with accurate, balanced, and reliable information. Our news and analysis are prepared based on information obtained from various news agencies, public sources, and public opinion. We make every effort to verify and validate each fact as much as possible, but in case of any possible error or dispute, the responsibility lies with the respective sources. Our only aim is to present you with a correct and trustworthy perspective so that you can understand any topic better.